There was about a 2.5-hour drive between where I grew up and the university I attended in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. The drive was along a flat, divided highway that dissected the prairie. Though some would claim the drive monotonous, I found the living skies and the subtly colored landscape to be brimming with beauty I knew as home. One landmark I always relied on seeing on that long drive, particularly helpful in a blizzard or other inclement weather, was the red barn just off the highway that had the phrase "Risk and Hope Farm" emblazoned on its roof. That simple phrase, risk and hope, seemed to sum up my experience growing up on a family farm. Each spring, with the hope and promise of a new growing season, we would sow another crop of wheat, lentils, and flax. The risk portion of this yearly adventure was that all the costs of sowing the crop, the seed, equipment, fuel, fertilizer, was expended before one could even imagine a return on that investment. And in the meantime, drought, flooding, disease, insects, low commodity prices, global trade action that closes potential markets, and a multitude of other possibilities could intervene and mean no profit for that year. The hope manifested in this yearly ritual that, despite no guarantee of return, still provided a way of life that was full of meaning and purpose. The memory of that barn on a lonesome Saskatchewan highway came back to me a few weeks ago when I was attending the Faith in Action National Network's Prophetic Resistance Summit in Indianapolis. Over 300 religious leaders and tribal elders gathered to find answers to the question posed by Reverend Howard Thurman in 1949. What does your faith have to say to those who stand with their backs against the wall? This multiracial, multi-religious, intergenerational gathering struggled together to decide if we were to be chaplains to the empire or prophets of the resistance. The empire being narratives and structures that oppress through a hierarchy of human value, a mentality of scarcity that advances exclusion and extraction, and the promotion of hyper-individualism that results in loneliness, fear, and violence. One of the central questions asked of this gathering over and over again was, what are the risks that you take as a religious leader or tribal elder when answering the call to prophetic resistance? In conversations in this multiracial setting where we recognized so many backs against the wall, from the likes of the scourge of mass incarceration, racial profiling, the centering of whiteness and the marginalization of communities of color, unjust immigration policies that separate family, global climate change that results of which have a greater impact on already marginalized communities, and the list goes on. We still, to a person, felt that sense of risk. My black colleagues expressed fear that their prophetic call, that all black lives matter and their resistance to white supremacy culture was risky within their own faith communities. They worried that they would be seen as too political and not declaring the good news, and only the good news, in the context of their faith. My white colleagues worried that the call to prophetic resistance was a call to resist white supremacy culture and the work of decentering whiteness from the faith communities that they love and serve with their whole selves and lives. The risk of us as religious leaders was articulated in a deep concern that, given that this is hard stuff and requires faithful engagement and a willingness to be in it for the long haul, our faith communities would turn to what Rabbi Sharon Brous named as a new trend emerging in the bleak landscape of American religious life: that of religious escapism. You know, the thoughts and prayers religion, as in our thoughts and prayers are with the victims of the hurricane, while we sit on our hands, lock our doors, and shame anyone who dares to bring up the increased ocean temperatures that so clearly contributed to the intensity and relentlessness of the storms. We're deeply saddened by the school shooting, hate crime, Nazi march, natural disasters. But let's not politicize a tragedy. Religious escapists worship at the altar of the status quo, and they've had quite a revival in America over the past year. When Marx called religion the opium of the people, he was criticizing religion that quiets the oppressed masses. I wonder what he would think of religion that quiets the privileged masses. As religious professionals and leaders, we fear if religious escapism is chosen, our risk is that we may not be able to support our families through our call, our vocation. Yeah, the stakes are high. They are always high. We bear witness each day to the painful reality of the culture of death that is always in the wake of cultures that place higher value on whiteness than on anything else. I don't know about you, but I find myself in a constant state of discomfort and dis-ease as I experience a world where no one is free from the bonds of systemic racism. As one who struggles each day to live a life where I decenter my own whiteness and struggle for the liberation of all, I often feel awkward and inadequate. And therefore, it is not a religion that aids and abets my escape from this dis-ease that I long for. No, the religion that I long for is the one that we build here together, the one that holds me up, holds us up, as we bear our pain and the pain of the world, and a religion that gives us the spiritual superpowers needed to live into a world where all are liberated. Religion that gives us the courage we need to create the community we are called to be, the families that we yearn for, and the world we want our children to inherit. A religion where our prayers, our songs, meditation, worship, justice work, committee work, and generosity harnesses the power of all that is sacred, as a living expression of our deepest commitments to a world where all are free to be their highest self and live into their highest purpose. We will all have to risk showing up in our imperfect form over and over and over again, staying with our call to build the beloved community in all its messiness, despite and because of the risks, and carrying with us a deep knowing and commitment to the hope necessary to make it so.